issue with this current generation of police officers, their training, their motivations, and how I'm not really impressed by this generation most of the time. What I just watched was The Sun. Is that a newspaper or a magazine? The Sun on YouTube, and I'll put the link in to the video when it posts, and I'll throw it up on notes in case you want to grab it quick. About the first 9.5 minutes of the Sun video, a lot of it is the sheriff doing his, look at me, this is my press conference. We arrested a famous person, so I'm going to get me some me time on the TV. Who cares? Who cares? Why a standing sheriff has to talk about a DUI arrest where nobody was injured, I don't know. The PR bullshit is another thing I don't like about this generation of cops. Just to remind people, if you haven't seen my videos before, I used to be a sergeant in the United States Army Military Police Corps. I'm also a retired civilian police officer. Before I got injured, I had about 14 years, about 6.5 years in the military, another about 7-8 years in civilian law enforcement. One of the things I was an expert in, a subject matter expert and court recognized expert in, was 23-152 A, B, and C, the DUI laws in California. Some of you states call them driving while intoxicated. We call it driving under the influence here. I was a court recognized expert, and I was also an expert in 11550 health and safety, which was detecting people high on narcotics in public. You're not allowed to be ripped on narcotics in public, or you can be arrested for a misdemeanor charge. I was an expert and DUIs. I don't know how many DUIs I got in 14 years. 600, 700, 800, 1,000. I don't know. It was a ton. Went to court so many times on prelims, but most of my cases were written so well that once the defense attorney couldn't throw out the main evidence in the preliminary hearing, I don't even think I did. Out of all those arrests, I think I only did 3 full-blown jury trials on my DUI arrests. That's how tight the cases, because the defense attorneys didn't want to go up against me. I had several stupid defense attorneys go up against me, and they lost horribly. And I was a very by-the-book guy when it came to DUIs, driving under the influence. I didn't care who you were. You could be the city council member, you could be the mayor, you could be another chief of police. I don't care. You're not supposed to be drinking and driving. We strictly enforced it in my town, and a lot of it had to do with one of our older lieutenants lost a family member, I think it was a daughter, to a DUI accident. So we went ape shit on DUIs all the time. My record was 4 DUI arrests, all solid, clean arrests. We're talking like every one of them above, never mind 0.08. 4 in one night, all of them above 1.2. Okay. 4 DUIs on a busy Saturday night in a coastal town with a big event going on. I got 4 in 10 hours. I think I did that twice, but the other one, I did it in 15 hours. I had to work a 5-hour over to cover the midnight shift because I was working swings. So like one of my best DUIs ever was guy speeding like hell around the curve, 25-mile-an-hour zone. He's doing like 44 miles an hour, and he's all over the road. And this is 6:20 in the morning, 6:20 a.m., 06:20 hours. I pull him over, and the first thing, and I'll get more into this, we talk about Tiger Woods, but the second I pulled him over and I looked at him, I noticed that his pupils were pinpoint. They were about 1 to 2 millimeter. Like, it's 6 a.m., but he was looking like he's standing in the Arizona sun, staring at the sun. That's how constricted his pupils are. Come to find out, he was the line cook at Denny's. He had broken his leg a couple of days earlier. He couldn't get the time off from work, so he decided to take 4 Percocets while he was working because he had to stand up and do his job as a cook. So he was on 4 Percocets and driving. Talk about failing a set of FSTs. And a lot of the things about this driver, he had an injured leg. A lot of things are similar. It was an opioid-like drug. Percocets is a painkiller. If you're not familiar with them, a very, very, very strong painkiller. And he took 4 big ones. But I told the DA later, I said, the guy had to go to work. And he just took too many pills and didn't realize. I mean, I really doubt he realized how high he was, because Percocets are pretty strong and you could lose yourself pretty quick. I said, don't go completely ape shit on the guy. Luckily, he didn't have a criminal prior, so I don't think much other than the 6-month suspension and of the license and a fine happened to him. But real dangerous situation because he was out of it. So yeah, plenty of time enforcing DUIs. So sitting there, my wife doesn't feel good. I'm starting to feel good. In fact, I had to take my wife to the hospital today. So I'm sitting there, she goes to bed, and she walked out of the room. So I started looking at YouTube on my laptop in the other room, and popped up in my feed. Oh, here's the Florida police body cam video of the Tiger Woods contact by the sheriff's department. And there's a lot of indicators right up front that he's fucked up. He's under the influence of something. And I know he has back injuries. I know he's had other injuries. And you have to take that into account. And they did take that into account. And I'll describe that later. But there was just something about his demeanor, his facial expression. You could just tell, like, ooh, was it an early day for partying? What's going on? I would have been suspicious immediately. So I'm not going to criticize the sheriffs going, hey, wait a minute, something's up with this driver. So they contact him, and the Sun video isn't the complete body cam, and I'd like to go back and rewatch the whole body cam video and see their whole process. I was so good at DUI detection and one of the specialized tests, horizontal gaze nystagmus, I actually got to learn the eye bouncing test you see all the time on police videos. I learned that from the doctor who discovered it. Okay, I learned directly from her in Southern California at a police training conference, and I quickly became an expert on it. And then I found out later by keeping up with her and her papers, that vertical gaze nystagmus also can occur under certain circumstances, and that's with drugs, not ethanol, alcohol. So they make contact with Tiger Woods, and something's up. Okay, but in the video, like I said, you just see portions of the field sobriety test, the FSTs, and they have him resting on the push bar bumper of the sheriff's patrol car, because obviously has multiple injuries. I guess he just had back surgery a little while ago. So you take that into account. Like, I didn't make the guy I stopped, the cook who had taken the Percocets, I didn't make him do the heel to toe walk because he's hurt. He's got leg injuries. That wouldn't be fair to him in the test, and it wouldn't be a good evaluation for me anyways, because there's other factors involved. And again, I know this clip was cut up, but I didn't hear things like, what medicines are you taking? Are you recently injured? Did you hurt yourself in the crash? Do you feel dizzy after the crash? Whatever. You want to break this down because you want to start taking into account the myriad of defense questions from the defense attorneys that are going to happen in court. So it kind of jumps to they're making him what looks like do the Macarena. And I'm like, I've never seen that fucking. I did DUI enforcements in 2 countries. Okay. I did them in Germany too. Never, and I've watched Polizei give DUI tests to people. Never seen somebody do the Macarena as a field sobriety test. Like, he was doing this. I have no idea what that test is. Is it something new? Is it valid? Is it court accepted? I have no idea. It just looks goofy to me. Because he had a leg injury, I would concentrate on the following things. Okay. First, I would talk about his awareness and his sensibility. Sir, can you tell me what time of day it is? Can you tell me what day of the week it is? Can you tell me what month it is? Okay. Where do you live? Okay. And it's not just the answers, it's how quickly they can answer. Because the more fucked up they are on alcohol and or drugs, the longer the answers take. And if it's a complex question, like, where were you coming from? And they get into this whole colloquy, like they're hammered out of their mind. This is really a thing when they're like above 2-0. They'll just, be the talkative drunk, and they'll just carry on. And what should be like a 5 to 10 word answer, they go on for a minute and a half. So they had him do the Macarena, which I wouldn't have done. What I would have done and had them do the counting test: 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. And I would demonstrate this twice: 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, can you please do that for me 4 times, 4 cycles? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Now, when they get really hammered or they're really high, that doesn't go well. Like then the thing is, it's a multiple mental task. You're counting verbally, okay, which is a separate task from touching your fingers, and they can easily get confused if they're drunk and or high. Some of my field notes on the counting tests are hilarious. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. Like they didn't understand the instructions. And then when I do the horizontal gaze, the nystagmus, what I'll get into the details of, and I find out, wow, you were just whacked up out of your brain. Okay, no wonder you couldn't follow the instructions. The other thing I would have had him do, and they had a weird version of this, because you can do this with physical support. They can lean against the car, but they had him put his arms down by his side and then touch his nose. That's not the test that I was trained in. You put your arms out because it's also about balance. And if he's leaning on the car, even with an injured leg or an injured back, he doesn't have the thing to fall over. And you should be ready to catch the drunks, because they will fall over on you even before the test sometimes. Like, I arrested a woman so drunk, okay, at 3 a.m. on a midnight shift. She could not physically get out of the car on her own, by her own means. It took 2 of us to get this skinny little 22-year-old gal out of the driver's seat, safely on the hood, hands behind her back. And I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. And I was like, I can't even jail her. She's so drunk, I can't even bring her to city jail. I'm going to have to take her to the hospital first. Okay. And I didn't even care about the field. She was so hammered. She was just observably drunk at first view. There was no question. She was absolutely hammered out of her brain. Okay. Slurred speech, bloodshot eyes, could barely keep her head up. In fact, when I walked into the car, she was lifting her head off the steering wheel. That's how hammered she was. She was passing out behind the wheel. Luckily, she was the only occupant in the car. The car was empty other than the driver. Okay. So when you do the 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1 test, and they're real hammered, it just goes awry. It's interesting to watch. Sometimes funny if you got a funny drunk there. Angry drunks suck, like the ones who think they're not going to be arrested because they can make it home safely. I don't care what you think. You're not getting back in that car, driving 2 blocks and killing a family of 4 in a minivan, and everybody's going to turn around and blame it on me. No way am I letting you go. So they did that crazy test. Hey, Macarena. I don't know what that was. That was weird. And they didn't give him, and always, if I suspected a combo, it's a good general test for alcohol interrogation. But if I think there's a combo effect here of alcohol and drugs, then I am going to do the backwards counting test. I want you to count slowly and clearly, just like I'm doing. 100, 99, 98, 97, 96. And I'd like you to count back all the way to the number 88 for me. Do you understand the instructions? Yes, count backwards from 100 to 88. Okay, go ahead and do this. 100, 99, 80, no, 87, 86, 80. Okay, thank you. I write down exactly what they say, okay? Because a lot of the defense attorneys, they'll try to say to the jury, especially if it's a jury trial, they'll say, oh, they gave him such a complicated test, nobody could follow it. And even they can't do it. And then when you just do it in court like it's a normal thing when you're sober, you prove them wrong. So they don't give them the counting test, which is a great cognitive test because it requires a serial response. You have to keep track of where you are in the process. And the higher and the drunker you get, that's harder to get. So they don't do that either. So it's the Macarena. It's this goofy nose touch. And then she whips out her pen. Now, again, I was trained by the actual medical doctor who discovered horizontal gaze nystagmus. Okay, so I know how exactly to do the eye motion test. Now, what she does is take the pen here, move it a little bit, and then she goes way the fuck over here. Now, if you move the eyes too far over to the edge, they will automatically start bouncing because of muscle tension, because the muscles, That's what makes your eyes move, okay? You strain the muscles to look hard to one side or the other, you'll introduce a false bouncing, which is a muscular bounce. It's not the bounce we're looking for in horizontal gaze nystagmus. Now, what horizontal gaze nystagmus is if you take somebody's there and you track their eyes very slowly and you keep widening in it, okay? And you don't go way over here. You just go right here, okay? Now you can use a pen. If it breaks, you take out your little mini flashlight and you kind of hide some of the lights, irritate their eyes, and you kind of illuminate your finger. Just go ahead and watch it. There you go. There you go. Okay. You don't do it into extreme angles because that doesn't fucking tell you anything. Okay. Now, horizontal gaze nystagmus, the angle in which the bouncing of the eyes start is directly mapped to the level of blood alcohol content in their bodies. I was so good at horizontal gaze nystagmus that if I said you were a 1.6 in the field, you will blow in the breathalyzer between 1.5 and 1.7. Every single time. I was never wrong. Not once. I was so good at horizontal gaze nystagmus, other officers called me over to make sure they weren't making a false arrest. And oftentimes I went horizontal, vertical. I go, it's a combo DUI. Breathalyzer first, blood second. And they're like, what? I go, he's high too. And it's cocaine. Because cocaine makes the pupils big. Any stimulant makes your pupils big. The painkillers make your eyes small. And there's public information that tigers had problem with painkillers, okay? Multiple surgeries, like 7 back surgeries. Yeah, I'd be a fan of the pain pills too. I just came off them because the abdominal surgery I told you all about. But luckily, opioids don't affect my brain like they do a lot of other people. I really feel fortunate. I've been on so many opioids since my original accident in 2007, and I've been on every surgical drug from phenitol to Daluid, you name it. Morphine. I've been on everything. I stopped taking them, and I don't care. I have no pining on for the drugs. None whatsoever. Do not care. Oh, last Norco. Go. Salt with a glass of water. Don't worry about it. Don't take another one. I don't break out in sweats. I don't care about it. I don't think about the drugs. Nothing. And I have to take heavy doses after medical treatments because of my pre-existing injuries. And I feel very fortunate about that because I know other people and people I know, they've been so affected by opioids, including my late mother. She became a opioid addict. That was hard. Okay. So he's got a history. And the deputy says, I think you're under the influence. You're obviously under the influence. What did she say? You're outside of cognitive norms or some crazy shit like that. And then she goes, you're incapacitated by an unknown substance. Okay, if you think it's unknown, it's not alcohol because you're not spelling alcohol in the breath. Okay, you're not getting the classic drunk slurred speech. You're not getting the head fade. What'd you say? The drunk stuff everybody sees, right? Go back to Red Skelton's drunk character. All the stuff you see, characterized or caricature of a drunk. Okay, you didn't see that. So now you should be looking for signs of drug intoxication. Okay, and opioids are a dead giveaway, especially if they've taken a lot. Remember I told you about the cook and his pinpoint pupils? Okay, there's a way, even in bright sunlight, there's a way to test for constricted pupils. Okay, according to the video I saw, they made no attempt to do that. And again, it was an edited video. I haven't seen the whole body camera video. I'm saying that up front, but I didn't see any indication of that. And I saw other things that were wrong in my mind about the process they were using to determine intoxication. And one of the things I didn't see that was really concerning was they didn't test the pupils. Cocaine, meth, any stimulant, hell, people with too much caffeine in their system. You know, Joe Cola was really popular back in the 90s. People would be pulled over and their eyes were like, did you take something? And they're like, Joe Cola. And you're like, oh, okay, that explains it. There's a little jumpy on caffeine. Okay. But here's the problem for Tiger now. Even if the sheriffs didn't do, you know, the absolute good bang up job there, they made an error or two here or there. He's still screwed. He's still screwed. Okay. I don't think a judge is after a rollover accident with a suppressed sedative demeanor. That's the way I put it in the report. The probable cause to take him in for a non-alcohol DUI is pretty strong. And here's the gig about most laws in most states, and we have reciprocity with Mexico and Canada. It's kind of a North American thing. You know, if you get arrested for DUI in any state in America, you also lose your license in Mexico and Canada. You lose it in all 50 states, all territories in America. Plus, you lose it in Mexico and Canada. If you get caught driving on a suspended license in Canada, you will be arrested. Suspended from a DUI in America will get you arrested in Toronto or Vancouver. Okay. But in most laws, there's 3 sections for DUIs. One is intoxicated by anything at any level that made you impair. You took too much cough syrup. Anything. Okay. If you're fucked up on it, or what we used to call the non-tolerant drunks, the teenager who has their first couple of beers, they're only in 05. They're shit-faced. They're not 08. They're not even close to the legal limit, but they're still fucked up beyond reason, and definitely should not be behind a wheel. Okay. You also see this with very small people, especially petite females or very, very small men, or even dwarfs. Low body mass, because all alcohol consumption is milligrams of ethanol to body mass, to kilograms of body mass. Okay. When you tiny, alcohol hits you harder. Okay. So a lot of times you don't even need to be 08. You're still arrestable. If you're on any drug that shows any influence whatsoever in California, that would be 23152A of the California Vehicle Code. Now, B is the tested limit. And I mean tested. That the 0.08 is actually a scientific finding that was done by medical researchers, public health researchers. I believe it was the Pennsylvania State Police, some Ohio police, and Ohio University. They did a long-term study with actually allowing people to drink alcohol, get onto a controlled course. Okay, not a roadway. This was a closed driving course. And they would check their blood alcohols at different level, and they would have them drive an automobile. But it was, you know, a training driving school automobile where the cop or the researcher in the passenger seat had a brake so they could stop the car. Okay. So we did hundreds and hundreds of people, hundreds and hundreds of tests, repeated tests, and we proved that over 0.08, 99% of the people cannot safely operate an automobile. Okay. So 08 is not a question. 08 is a scientific fact, a researched fact. Okay. Then you have section C. Okay. That means if you're a drug addict or a severe alcoholic, your license can be revoked and you can never drive again under any circumstances. And even under C, the exigent circumstance often doesn't apply. Like, we're actually trained about this because we are the hospital for our side of the county was in our city. So you get all sorts of panic people racing to the hospital. Well, we had a case one night. A guy was driving his wife to the hospital. Wife had a genuine medical situation. She needed to go to the hospital. Pulled him over. He's drunk. I'm trying to get her to the hospital. No problem, sir. Ambulance is coming right up the highway. We're going to pick her up in the ambulance, and we're going to finish the ride in the ambulance. You are not moving this car one inch further. I got to get her to the hospital. We're getting her there. Okay. Now we go through our process because he is drunk. But as it goes to court, the DA ends up dropping the charges because it's an exception to the DUI rules. If life and limb are at risk, DUI doesn't actually apply. So the guy didn't even get a traffic ticket out of that one. But if you're an addict and you get caught behind the wheel, exogen is probably not going to fly in your case. Now, that dovetails into the imbeciles this generation, politicians and police chiefs alike, and I think a few county sheriffs were involved, who tried to tell us that if you had any metabolite of THC, CBD, or any subcomponent of THC or derivative, cannabis, marijuana, the wacky weed, okay? Speaking of, I left my pen in the other room. Any metabolite in your system, you could be arrested under Section A of, or the equivalent in your state or territory, any drug that makes you intoxicated. Simply, not because you showed signs of intoxication, simply because you had a metabolite of THC in your bloodstream. That's not how DUI works at all. Anybody telling you they want to arrest everybody under the sun for DUI because they had a metabolite in their blood has no idea about body chemistry, drug testing or alcohol testing, or DUI laws. That's not a thing. Okay. It's also not a thing where, what was this, Kentucky, where one police captain ended up ordering his officers to arrest hundreds, if not 1,000 people who were stone cold sober and got arrested for DUI. One guy they arrested had his coin from AA. He hadn't had a drink in 13 years. And he had his coin in his pocket to prove it. He goes, I don't drink anymore. I haven't drank in 13 years. The reason he got arrested wasn't because they thought he was drunk on ethanol, what we usually call alcohol. Alcohol is a family of chemicals. Ethanol is the one that we can drink as an alcohol that won't kill us. You drink methanol, another alcohol, you're dead or blind. So this captain, this highway patrol captain in Kentucky, decided to tell his officers that everybody in America was on opioid pills or the evil weed marijuana. Therefore, stop giving any field sobriety test, any breathalyzers, simply just arrest them and take them to the hospital for a blood test. Then the blood test started coming back negative. Not one negative test, not two negative tests, not 10. 44 sober arrests by one cop. Because he was convinced that all of us are drug addicts on opioids and weed, and we're the ones committing all the crimes. Well, I thought that was the Mexicans and the Venezuelans and the Somalians, whatever. You guys think everybody's committing crimes. You think the whole world's coming after you. They don't understand what law enforcement is. Law enforcement is making contact with less than 10% of the populace. I worked in a city for years. I probably met less than 10% of the people who live there. And I met 2% of them over and over and over and over and over because they were our frequent flyers. Okay? 90% of the people you will never talk to as a police officer. They are not a threat to you. They are not a threat to the city. They're not committing crimes. They're doing nothing to you. They're not doing anything to anybody. Okay? But these paranoid fuckheads who need a police tank, okay, to go enforce a city code violation in Florida because somebody planted vegetables in their front garden. That's a true story. When they started this, what was it called? The 1088 1086, 1088 program, whatever it was, Army dumping shit to the cops. Okay, because we're all at war after 9/11, so we're going to shoot Americans because somebody else drove a plane into a building. Yay! Okay, not law enforcement, but okay. This generation of cops, like, they're more concerned about polishing the fucking tires on the Bearcat than they are knowing how to solve a burglary, how to make a righteous, proper, legal DUI arrest. Because when you arrest 44 people who are stone cold chemically sober. They took a blood test out of 44 people's arm, and there wasn't a single metabolite of a single intoxicating drug in their system. Not one thing across 44 things came back all to one officer working for one captain. And that cop was just one of dozens who were out there making hundreds of arrests based on everybody's our enemy. So watching shitty FSTs with Tiger Woods, I want to see the whole video, but I have my doubts. I'm going to grade it a C minus D plus for a field evaluation on Tiger Woods until I can see the whole video, because what I saw I'm not impressed with. Okay, but my problem, what struck in my brain is, do they actually care about doing their fucking jobs this generation or not? And I've had this conversation with several people I worked back with in the day. Okay. We actually cared about what we were doing. And it wasn't like we were choir boys. We were coming out of the Choir Boys, the old police novel about corrupt cops. That's what Choir Boys, it's from a book. From the 70s, the goon squads from the 60s, we were supposed to be the new generation. We were supposed to be doing it better. Okay. Sometimes, yes. A couple of times, horribly not. No. I worked the nights of Rodney King. So we didn't win anything. I know that. But our personal attitude toward the job was do the right thing. Know what you're fucking doing. You know, my good day at work was not kicking the shit out of some suspect or jumping and getting my battle jammies on and jumping on a bearcat to go chase down a teenager. No, my best days at work was working a burglary scene and finding that fingerprint and getting a perfect thumbprint off the lift and like looking at it, and it's like, man, this is like lab quality. If we got this guy's fingerprints on file, we can find him. Okay. And when the senior cop shows up and he goes, hey, do you know this is our 4th gas station break-in in the last month? I'm going, 4th? I don't even know of one other. He goes, they were on the A team shift. We were B team. Yeah, A team took 2 of them. I worked overtime. I didn't know that. So this is probably a repeat subject, right? And he's like, yeah, what do you got? I go, I got a whole thumbprint and it's clean. He looks at it and goes, damn, that's good. You know, or doing an interrogation. No bullying, using smart interrogation and interview techniques, and just walking somebody through a scenario, and then they realized, oh shit, I'm caught. Half the time I could get a confession. I didn't have to even raise my voice. All I had to do was set them up till they realized they're caught. I'll give you a perfect example of this one. We get a call at 6:10 in the morning, summer morning. I remember because it was really warm in the city in that morning. I was wearing a short sleeve shirt. Because even in the summer, we're a coastal town. It got cold at night. But I wasn't even wearing a car jacket. I was wearing a short sleeve shirt. I remember it specifically. And all of a sudden we hear the alert tones. Beep, beep, beep. Burglary in progress. This address. It's been dead quiet for 4 hours. It's a slow week in town. There's nothing going on. A burglary in progress? Okay, this is weird. Park half a block away. Yeah. Mission Impossible up. Dun, 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 dun. Find the apartment. Doors closed. Windows on the porch are closed. Nothing's going on. Doesn't look like anything's going on. Get up there. Listen. See the cops at the other end of the alley? Listen. Nothing. Okay. TLDR. We finally pound on the door. The guy's in there, and so is a cute blonde. She's really cute. And they're doing the early morning jiggy. That's why they didn't answer the door the first time when we pounded. So I said, we need some indicia that shows you live here, and I need it now. He's like, okay, I'll tell you what this is. I go, well, you better explain something, because we just got a felony in progress call here, and it appears to be bullshit. And calling in fake felonies is a crime itself. And he goes, it was my ex-girlfriend. She's mad at me because she saw me out with her last night. Okay, where's your girlfriend? Oh, she works at the band at the hotel. You mean the convention center hotel? Yeah. Oh, okay. I knew the hotel. I know the band lives there. They live in the hotel room because they work 7 days a week. They get like 1 day off every 2 weeks. So I go down to the convention center, go to the front desk, ask for the manager. He goes, "What can I help you with?" I go, "I need all the phone logs out of room XYZ from 5 o'clock till now." He goes, "No problem." Goes to his PBX machine, puts it in the room, gives me an old printout, green bar printout. This is back in the day. Okay, there's the non-emergency line coming from that hotel room the boyfriend says she lives in. I go, "Who occupies that room?" It's her name. "Does she work at the hotel?" "Oh, yes, she does. She's part of the band." "Oh, okay." And that's the non-emergency line to the local police department. So I just fold up the little paper, keep it in my hand, go walk up to the room, knock on the door. We get into a large conversation. There's a burglary at his house. That's bad. Is he okay? Oh my God. Oh, I go, "Ma'am, I'm going to cut to the chase here. Did you make any phone calls this morning?" "No, I didn't wake up till you knocked on the door." Okay, we'll make this quick. Here's the printout of all the phone calls made it out of your room. You made 6 phone calls since 5 o'clock this morning. 2 of them were to the non-emergency number of the police department in the 911 center. Would you like to update your statement and answer for me why you called in a false burglary in progress that could have got somebody killed? Yeah, then she confessed. By the way, I didn't raise my voice to her. Exactly the same way I spoke to you all. It's exactly the way I was speaking to her in the hotel room. Okay, all I had to show her was the evidence I had her nailed to the wall. That's all it took. But again, I had pride in what I did. I loved closing a good case. I loved wrapping a case up right there during the shift. Okay. I wasn't one of the beat cops who just threw shit up to the detectives because they were too lazy to follow up on their own crap. If I knew I had witnesses I could still talk to, or I had more follow-up I could do, very next shift, I was on the phone right after briefing, doing my follow-ups, writing my supplemental report. Now forward it to the detectives. Now that I've done all the legwork I had time to do, and if I needed more, then I sent it up to detectives. So I actually did care about what I did. Okay. When I see somebody holding a pen way over out in the distance where it's nothing to do with the horizontal gaze nystagmus. Now, I have to admit, she could have been totally taught wrong. Okay. I'd had a total benefit of being taught by the actual doctor who discovered that technique. Okay. And I don't know what 3 foot away at a sharp angle does to that test other than ruin the test you're trying to give. Like if I started going out and I picked up the bounce right here, that's 45 degrees out. Okay. What was that? About 1.3, 1.4, if I remember correctly. Okay. I had people that you go way out and I would tell them, I would just look at the other officer and go, "This is a 2.2. This is triple the legal limit." Okay. Cuff them, walk them. We're done here. Okay. Putting your fingers way out here and making them strain their eyes. No, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Now, are they trained wrong? Do they just not care? I don't know. But it's another example where I see things that I just don't like in this generation of law enforcement. I just don't like it at all. I mean, if you're going to do something, do it well. What did Nick Offerman once say? Don't half-ass 2 things, whole-ass 1 thing. I completely agree with that. I have actually told that to my sons. Don't half-ass 2 things, whole-ass 1 thing. Have pride in what you do. Have self-respect in what you do. Because law enforcement and the suppression of crime and the administration of justice has nothing to do with what most cops of this generation and most chiefs, supervisors, and sheriffs think law enforcement's about. Do you remember the sheriff in Louisiana who put his gang picture up on their website? They literally look like street homies with their assault weapons. Yo, bro, we're going to get into war, bro. Okay. Okay. Because if you think you can shoot your way out of crime, you probably believe we've run the Iran war already. Well, you probably thought we won Vietnam and won Afghanistan. All not true. And I think, like, one of the things my wife used to be a police dispatcher at the 911 center for a few years before we had kids. Unfortunately, she was working police dispatch the night I had to call a officer who needs help. So she's sitting at another 911 center, scared to death that, her husband just called an officer needs help, and we did. My wife and I would watch high-speed pursuit videos on YouTube, and she'd grade the dispatcher, and I grade the police driving the cars, how well they could do the pursuit. Now, I do have to say is there's a couple of people I've seen on YouTube, and it's particular to the agencies, I have to say. There's some agencies that are really good at pursuits. They do them very well, even they do them at very high speeds, like Arkansas State Police. But I saw a couple, what is it? What's the city inside of Detroit? Is that Capital City? What the hell is that city? There's a city within a city there. And I saw a couple of videos, Detroit chasing people through Detroit, then through this city within the city. It used to be where one of the big car plants were, and they closed it, and now it's just a total train wreck. It's run down, basically, post-industrial ghetto. Doesn't matter who lives there, white, black, purple, green girlfriend. It's a fucking ghetto. And these are tough streets, a lot of residential streets. And I would just watch them. I go, wow, these guys are doing it really well. Really well. And then a couple nights later, we watched one at LAPD, and it was a long one. And I was just like, oh my God, LAPD is still, and LASO are still fucking things up. So, yeah. So, watch the Tiger Woods thing. Wasn't impressed by the cops. I could have done the FSTs 10 times better, and I haven't done them in a while. I'd asked a lot more questions. I'd have been a lot more thorough. And I said, I'm codicilling this where it's a news report. It's not the whole raw tape, because unfortunately the news doesn't want to show us the tapes. They want to show us the sheriff doing his PR session about his next reelection. That's why I don't like the guy in Florida, the guy that's constantly at the lectern. Look at me. I'm the hero of the county. You all need me. He's not an asshole like Trump, but he has the same narcissism as Trump. Like, without me, you're all going to die. And he's got to excoriate everybody they arrest. Like, that's somehow going to reduce crime. Nobody gives a shit, dude. Okay. And besides, I've talked to this before. I wrote entire essays. I wrote 4-part essays about what's the good, bad, and the ugly, and why you need a good working law enforcement system in your community. Okay. And I started with calling out all the bad shit of this generation. But I told you at the end in the last essay about how if you want to live in prosperous communities, you need law enforcement. Proper law enforcement. I'm just wondering, this generation, especially in the age of Trumpianism, where everything is this maximalist bullshit. Lethality, bro. That doesn't solve crime. It's like Sergeant Major Shrek on one of the podcasts I was watching. He's getting shit when he came back from Afghanistan. He's like, well, why didn't we just kill them all? Because I hear that. I've been hearing that in law enforcement too, even back in the day. Like, when I was working undercover, I was out with friends who knew what I did for a living, my day job. And after a few beers, they're going, wow, why don't we just shoot all the drug dealers? I'm sorry, who shoots all the drug dealers, you or me? Are you asking me to not be a Nazi and start just shooting people in trench executions because you don't have balls to do it yourself? Fuck you. I'm not an executioner. That's not my job. Okay. We arrest criminals and we take them off the streets. We just don't start shooting people. And they started this crap with Sergeant Major Shrek in Afghanistan. Same thing. Well, why don't we just kill all the Afghanis? And Shrek said it aloud. He goes, well, yeah, the Nazis tried that. It didn't work. And when they asked Sergeant Major Shrek, what should we do in Afghanistan and what we should have done in Afghanistan and make it better and help them rebuild, more hospitals, more schools, more aid, more fresh water, more opportunity. Oh, what will lower crime in the United States of America? A Bearcat police tank? No. Battle jammies and a balaclava? No. There's nothing to do with law enforcement. Nothing to do with suppressing crime and managing crime in a community. LAPD, anything citizens can do to make a difference, acting like a gang with a huge budget. Yeah, citizens should get together and they should break up LAPD. We said that after Rodney King. It's too big of a department to manage. And there's also a weird history between Bill Gates, actually not just Gates, but a couple of chiefs back in the 80s and 90s, and the sheriffs in LA basically thought they could each build a bigger army to show which one had a bigger dick. Okay. And there's a lot of background for that. It goes all the way back to the Munich terrorist attacks, where the Israeli Jewish athletes were murdered by the terrorists at the Munich Olympics. They thought they were going to have a repeat of it at the '84 Olympics in Los Angeles, and people got a little weird. Which was weird because the FBI teams were there. So if any big thing happened, we had marshal teams, we had military police, we had Delta Force on the ground, we had FBI hostage rescue and their SWAT teams on the ground. If something big would have happened like Munich, the terrorists would have been overwhelmed. Okay. But instead of just protecting the Olympics, the special events, they thought every day of the week was a terrorist attack. So if you have one armored van and 10 SWAT officers in LAPD, the sheriff needs 30 SWAT officers and 10 vans. Then LAPD goes, no, I have 100. No, I have 250. Then all of a sudden, most of the departments became SWAT teams. And patrol became like the secondary thing in their mind. That went away after Rodney King and a lot of other things happened. But after 9/11, it all came back. It all came back. So the biggest advice I can say for LAPD is break up LAPD. It's too big to manage. And also what would help, and this is not just LA, this is everywhere. This is my hometown up in the Bay Area, up in Northern California. You need to sign different contracts with the chiefs and the captains. Right now, their contracts say they have full immunity to do anything they want, and unless they go completely off the reservation and go completely mental, the chances of them holding them accountable for something that happens in the department is virtually nothing. Like, it literally took one of the chiefs here to get fired. It took it took murdering somebody at the Walmart before the city council and the city manager sat down the chief and told him to get the fuck out. Why? Because they all walk around thinking they are an army that serves themselves. They were given military weapons. In fact, here in my desk, I have the Freedom of Information request that shows they were lying when they said they were outgunned. They have 6 M14 KSs in their arms room, battlefield army assault weapons, and they claimed they were outgunned. This is the heaviest fucking BAR in the army inventory right now, and they said they were outgunned. Nobody is outgunned with an M14 KS in their hands. Okay, ex-army sergeant here. I fired those. I know what it's like. Okay, you tell me you're outgunned with a M14 KS in your hands, you're just a coward. You're a Uvalde Hallway Brigade coward. Shut the fuck up. But they said they were outgunned. That's why they needed the tank. Then When a mental case, a 5150, grabbed a baseball bat and started swinging around, they just walked up and put a bullet in his heart. Didn't even take 20 seconds. They just walked up, didn't shit, didn't try to tackle him, didn't try to talk to him. Boom, put a bullet in his heart. It took, after all the other shit that went on in the city, it took a cold-blooded murder, which eventually the DA dropped charges, of course. Okay, because we are target practice, even in the DIs, even these reformed DAs. No, the citizens that anybody is identified by the police, that citizen is target practice. That's the way it works up here in Northern California. It's the way it works down in Los Angeles. Okay, just in my small city here, we've had officers get caught doing the following. And this is just since I've lived here. Okay. And LAPD, before I tell you the list of our department, LAPD, we had our sergeant where I used to work back in the 90s, okay, on the Central Coast. He used to read LAPD's public internal affairs disposition report just to scare the fuck out of us. Sergeant, 18 years experience, suspended for 180 days for picking up a male prostitute in his patrol car. Officer, corporal, suspended 45 days, domestic disturbance in a restaurant. And every month he would read them, and there'd be dozens of cases where people get massive suspensions for doing shit we would get fired for instantly in our department. Like, there's no way you can hit your wife in a domestic disturbance in public and think you're keeping your badge in my department. You're done. You're done. Lie once in a police report, you're not getting suspended. You're done. You're fired. Same thing when I worked in the military police. Lie to your special agent in charge. Lie to your warrant officer team chief. You're done. Pack your shit. Okay. So yeah, LAPD, they used to use LAPD to scare the shit out of us because they told us, we catch you doing any of this shit, you're going to be fired, and we're going to file a case with the DA's office and go after you. Okay. But here's my department. I live in the city now in the Bay Area. This is all the shit that local cops got caught doing. This is just my city, never mind the sheriff's department or other cities around me. Statutory rape of the police intern. Being a drug mule for a girlfriend. And we're not talking little amounts of weed and dope. We're talking lots of it. Okay. Full-blown drug mule. Okay. Aggravated battery, domestic disturbance, domestic battery, domestic violence, felony 273.5. Okay. Voluntary manslaughter and assault with a deadly weapon. We're so proud. But why you have all this misconduct this generation and why like departments like LAPD are still a shit show. Like, we had a saying back in the day, if you want something fucked up in law enforcement, give it to LAPD. They'll fuck it up twice in 5 minutes. Like, I was a certified nunchaku instructor. Okay. They gave nunchakus to LAPD. They critically injured a woman in protest the first time they attempted to deploy them. Okay. That means they were never trained. They didn't give a shit. They just said, go hurt people with a pair of nunchucks. That's not what a pair of nunchucks are for. They're a pain compliance technique tool. That's it. Grab the wrist. They comply. Boom, handcuffs. We're done. It's only with the violent ones do you have to really torque on them, because it takes so little pressure with the nunchaku to get a good grip on them and get them to follow. Okay. LAPD used nunchakus once and they were banned from the department. That's how severely injured a protester ended up. A completely spiral compound fracture, bone popping out of her fucking elbow. Should have never happened. Never happened. Happened with LAPD though. Okay. And that's what I worry about. Okay. I worry about, are we getting our bang for the bucks? Because usually a police department is the most expensive thing in your city. It's the highest tax cost. Are we getting anything out of it? And a lot of can answer, drug war, police tanks, misconduct. The answer is no. The answer is no. That's why I'm pretty down on even though I'm a military veteran and a police veteran, I'm pretty down on both right now. We have a Department of Defense leader right now who's a complete jagoff, who thinks hitting targets is a military victory and a strategy. No, you're playing Call of Duty, child. Disgraced major who got kicked out of the National Guard. You're not winning a war. You're playing whack-a-mole with an F-18. Okay? That's why I've been saying, you want to get better services, you want to get better results out of the military, better results out of national security, better results out of law enforcement, start cutting their budget. Telling them to find real things to do in the day, or we'll cut your budget more until you find those things to do real. Like these departments I've read about or seen YouTube documentaries about them, or the lawyers in the Midwest I watch. Police departments who haven't closed a felony case in 6 months write 65 traffic tickets a day in their town. What, they had more cops than they had adults in the town. How that worked out, I had no idea. And they wrote a traffic ticket per resident per day. Okay. Whoever's funding that police department is wasting money. You should immediately cut 40% of their budget out and tell them another 30% is going to come out if you can't find a real felony to go figure out. They thought their job was to jack people because they were in a rural route and it was a small town on this rural route. They just thought their job was jacking people who were driving through their town. They had no concept of what law enforcement was. And then you start looking at the cops in the department. The cops that worked at this fucked up department who did no law enforcement, they just wrote traffic tickets and fucked with people. They were usually the fallout fuck-ups from other departments. And that's one thing today that horrifies me, is they don't believe in weeding people out. We did. Like ICE is the premier example right now. If you've got a pulse, okay, and you can do a one-arm salute, hey, ICE is your job, buddy. They're not going to weed you out. Like we'd make bets. The military guys that were going into the academy, we're like, hey, I've already been doing police work for 6 years. I'm not really worried about the police academy. I'm in super good physical shape. I can read and write in English at a very high level, even though I've never been to college. Okay, and this is gonna be a tough 6 months, but I'm making it through. There's no doubt. First day, we're sitting there at lunch, having a sandwich, looking down at the other table and going, okay, who's the first to fall out? And I picked 2 of the first 3 to fall out the first day. And when they got kicked out of the academy, none of us cared. In fact, when one dude got kicked out, I literally told the tax sergeant, you probably saved a life down the road. Because that guy should be nowhere near a gun and a badge. So, yeah, so I'm not too impressed. And when I see things like Tiger Woods stop, or it's not just I would have done it differently. I'm an expert in what they did. You did an average job at best. Maybe it's all you got in your district. I don't know. But what I see time and time and time and time and time and time again. Oh, Hope, here's one. Our chief of police last week got into a hit and run and fled the scene in a city car. If any patrol vehicle had contact with another vehicle, we had to call a supervisor and write it up as a traffic accident. I backed up into a rock and scratched 4 inches of paint on a car. The captain told the sergeant they had to write it up as a fucking accident. She hits somebody on the highway and just drives away. And everybody around here is going, I don't see the big deal. I do. It's called hit and run, you fucking idiot. For a police chief to do that, she should have been fired the next fucking morning. And we have a history of fuck-ups around here. A history of fuck-up chiefs. I would never serve under these clowns. We've had a Nazi princess as a chief. We had a fake war hero as a chief. We've had a fake reformer as a chief. We had a fly-by-night motherfucker who didn't even care. I'm just here I'm padding my retirement. Yay-ha! Didn't care what was going on. So if they can't do the job right, they don't care if they do the job right. If they're more concerned about, instead of learning how to do a DUI stop correctly or a burglary correctly or a rape case correctly. That was another thing I was very good at. My rape report of a prostitute in the city park who got raped at midnight in a city park, that crime report stayed in the training books at my department for 15 years after I retired. So did my 2 of my 11,550 reports, because nobody else understood 11,550 like I did. Okay. And I know a lot of other good people. Like, we had one guy, he was ex-Marine. He survived Khe Sanh in Vietnam. Super liberal guy, super Marine. No doubt that guy was a Marine. Super fucking liberal. This guy was the burglar whisperer. He would walk into a neighborhood. He left the car at the edge of the neighborhood. He'd walk into the neighborhood and go, "They're around the corner." I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about, dude?" Split up, head down both sidewalks. 2 dudes literally wrenching the radio out of the dashboard. I go, "How did you know that?" He goes, "I could hear them picking the locks on the car." I'm like, "Damn, dude, that was good." My buddy Jeff, rest in peace. He died a couple of years ago. Died really young, fatal heart attack. First heart attack, fatal heart attack. He was gone. Still sad about that one. I miss him. He did an accounting case when my wife worked at the same accounting office, an embezzlement case. He had a accounting degree from a California State University. So they assigned him the case because he was on light duty anyways. And he worked probably one of the most complicated embezzlement cases I ever saw. This shit was going on for years. There were so many checks, so many ledgers to go through. He showed me his case. He showed me his method. I was like, "That's impressive, dude. That's impressive." And I'm not saying like every cop this generation is bad, but I'm saying the median cop that I'm looking at, I keep seeing videos and I'm not impressed. Definitely wasn't impressed with that arrest of Tiger Woods. But Tiger Woods is really should be really happy that I wasn't still in law enforcement and I wasn't the cop that showed up at the scene, because I'd attacked him to the wall. Okay, you ain't ever getting out of this charge, dude. Well, same thing could be said about a certain secretary who got caught in a Hilton hotel room. I read that report too. Hegseth's sexual assault report. I read that report. I'm just glad it was another ID in that report, because if it was my ID in that city, I'd attack you to the wall. All right. Yeah. Sorry that LAPD is still LAPD. Sorry about that. It doesn't have to be that way, I know. But we also don't want to fix society. That's the problem. The real reason why you have bad cops is because they're reacting to poverty and crime that the politicians and the societal leaders have no intention of fixing. Okay, because if you look at the most prosperous and peaceful countries on earth, that would be Denmark, Japan, New Zealand. Okay, their crime rates are negligible. They're almost de minimis compared to ours. Okay, why? People have education. People have jobs. People have health care. People have mental health problems, get mental health care. Okay, there's a strong social safety net that directly affects the amount of crime. Now, I lived in Germany for years, West Germany. Super strong social safety net. If you're homeless, unhoused, whatever we're going to call them, and you don't want to be unhoused anymore, I got an apartment, I got food money, I got a doctor, I got a psychiatrist. What do you need? Social worker will walk right up. You go through a few hours worth of paperwork and screening, and they'll set you up. Does that mean there's no crime in Germany? Absolutely not. There's still crime. It's just a lot lower. Is there still homeless in Germany? Yeah, unfortunately, because some people are crazy and they live outdoors. Some people are drug addicts and their families kick them out, and their friends have kicked them out. They're such bad drug addicts. Okay, like most of the drug addicts in, like definitely like Frankfurt, West Germany, were heroin users. They were strung out heroin users. But did you ever see? You have ever seen or read, shanty towns like we had after the bank bailouts? We had encampments. They're just cleaning up the last one in San Jose. Okay. We had 20,000 people living in encampments in just a couple of cities up here. 20,000 people in mega shanty towns, Hoovervilles. I was all over Germany, all over Europe. Never once saw a Hooverville in Europe. Do we actually want a safer society? Do we want a more peaceful and prosperous country? The Bearcat doesn't do that. The police tank does not do that. The sniper rifle, the BDUs, the battle jammies, the 40 millimeter grenades shooting into that, none of that creates peace and prosperity. None of that supports life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's just a reaction. And a lot of things is the culture over the years of LAPD has gotten darker and darker and darker and darker. Because the societal problems, you could work in LAPD for 25, 30 years. The same problems you were when you were rookie day one are going to be the same problems on your retirement day. Why? Nobody in LA that leads the fucking area gives a shit. Okay. You want less crime? Build a better society. Oh, and I'll make one comment. Tiger Woods is fucking rich. You're telling me he can't afford an Uber? He can't afford a day rental limousine to take him anywhere he wants to go? You can be as high as you fucking want on your prescriptions in the back of a limo. There's nothing legal about that. As long as you can take care of yourself, or somebody with you can take care of you, that's not a crime. Instead, he gets behind the wheel. And the last report, newspaper report before I watched the video, said that he was found with opioids in his possession. That's not good, dude. That means you had opioids on you. You were probably taking them throughout the day, and you're rich enough where you didn't have to fucking do that. Oh, by the way, my favorite athlete of all time is not Tiger Woods. I think he's a dick. My favorite athlete of all time is Ray Bork, Boston Bruin hockey player, retired a few years back. One of the best defensemen of all time. Love Ray Bork as a hockey player. Got very pissed at him when he left. In retirement, he does charity and he runs a couple of restaurants. He got pretty hammered on wine one night at his Italian restaurant and drove home and got caught and got arrested for DUI. Now, luckily, he threw himself on the total sword. Okay. He was like, yes, I did it. I'm sorry. I'm a jerk. I should have known better. I should have done better. I'm sorry. Total mea culpa. Okay. It was almost as big a mea culpa as Johnny Carson. That's the biggest mea culpa for DUI of all time. Do any of you know that story? It's actually great. Johnny Carson actually suffered from pretty bad depression and other problems. Okay. And he was a terrible drunk for years. Okay. He got popped by LAPD in Burbank and he was shit-faced behind the wheel. Okay. Johnny Carson was a really smart dude. Okay, I know, like all people, all men especially, we have our demons and our problems, right? But at least when he sobered up the next day, he had the status of mind to go, you know what? I did something wrong and I should try to fix it. So just before showing up to court for his preliminary hearing for his DUI arrest, Johnny Carson donated $1 million. Now, this is 1980s dollars, where $1 million was worth a lot more. Okay, remember a dollar today, a dollar today, or the other way around. $1 in 1980 Today it would be worth 25 cents. We've lost three quarters of the value of the dollar since then. So this is $1,080. He gives $1 million to UCLA Medical School to research alcoholism and the threats caused by alcoholism in DUIs. He shows up in court, and even the DA is going, I can't punish him, Your Honor, for $1 million. I mean, the maximum fine is $5,000. He's just punished himself. And so they said, do you want to dismiss this? And he's going, yeah, he already punished himself. He already paid $1 million fine before he even showed up to court. So at least Johnny had the presence of mind to go, you know what, I screwed up. Why don't I put some of my money to where it may help some people? And also then he hired a driver and he took a limousine to work. So it came out to a little more than $1 million. Okay. I have so many topics. I just didn't have time today. Like I said, my wife was ill today. I had to take her to the hospital and get a couple of checkups and get some medicines and stuff. Plus I had some work to do today, but the news is so crazy. Like I actually sat and watched Trump's speech the other day. I'll do that one. I have it all written out. I'll do that. Probably do that tomorrow. It's crazy. Right now I'm looking at my notepad. Jeez, I got like 7 topics. Like the news is so bombastic, but want to do a thing I normally don't do just because I know something about it with DUIs. So is Tiger in trouble? Hell yes. Did the cops do a really good job? Okay, I guess. But I don't see the professionalism, the acumen, and the discipline in this generation. And that was my point. Okay. Like I said, I have a bunch of other topics. Thank you for all the restacks and likes and comments you guys have been putting up. That I really appreciate the interactions. And thank you, even late night. Thank you for being here. We will talk again soon. So until next time, please think about it.